everyone, I am Ivy Roca Gofredo. So for today's video, I will going to summarize the assigned story, which is entitled The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. First, I will introduce to you the author of The Song of Achilles. She is Madeline Miller, has a BA and MA from Brown University in Latin and Ancient Greek, and has been teaching both for the past 9 years. She also studied at the Yale School of Drama, specializing in adapting classical tales to modern audience. The Song of Achilles is her first novel. The Song of Achilles is a book that retells the events of Homer's Iliad. The author, Madeline Miller, published this book in 2012, and it has become very popular since then. The story is narrated by Patroclus, who explores themes such as fate and glory throughout his narrative. The novel begins with Patroclus narrating his birth and early childhood. He is the son of King Menethnius, who did not raise him well because he has a disappointment to his father. His father brought him to court when he was 9 years old as a suitor for Helen's hand in marriage. However, she rejected him because they were too young to get married. When Patroclus was 10, he accidentally killed a noble's son. He was exiled for this and went to Phthia, where he met Achilles, the son of King Peleus and Thetis. Although the two were very close friends, they had feelings for each other that went beyond friendship. They studied together with Charon, who is renowned as having trained many Greek heroes, including Heracles. Achilles is 16 when his father Peleus asked him to join the Greek army in a war against Troy. However, Thetis knows that Achilles will die if he goes to Troy. She takes him away and disguises him as a woman, still determined to keep Achilles from going to war. She marries him off, but eventually becomes pregnant with their child. When Patroclus finds out that his lover, Achilles, has left to fight in the Trojan War without him, he goes to find him. When they are found together by Odysseus and Diomedes, Peleus refuses to tell them where Achilles is. He then tells them about a prophecy that says if Hector dies before Achilles does, then Achilles will die soon after. In order for this not to happen, he will not go into the battle against any of the Trojans except for Hector, because it would mean his death. Achilles is an excellent soldier. However, he's not a leader. He clashes with Agamemnon after the latter announces that Achilles will be marrying his daughter Iphigenia as a part of a plan to get them to Troy. The winds are bad and they need to sail there in order for the war to happen. To solve this issue, Agamemnon sacrifices his own daughter at Aulis so that the winds will blow again and allow them to go on their journey towards Troy. This sacrifices angers Achilles because he doesn't want any human sacrifices going on during this time period due to how barbaric it is considered by the most people today. The Greeks begins the siege of Troy, a city crafted by Apollo and protected by impenetrable walls. They conducted raids on nearby farms to starve out the population and flood it with refugees. In the process, they make local women as slaves to be used as sex slaves for warriors who need them. Patroclus helps Achilles claim braces from another warrior in order to save her from that fate. Meanwhile, Achilles reveals in his battle skill while Patroclus works at attending to wounded soldiers in the infirmary, even though he is horrified by what happens during the battles. Agamemnon takes Chryses, a priest of Apollo. He does this because he wants her to be his slave and not her father's. Her father is furious at Agamemnon for taking his daughter away from him. He goes to the Greeks and tries to get them to help him retrieve Chryses, but they ignore him and mock him instead. Therefore, he prays to Apollo, who sends a plague upon the Greek army as punishment for their actions against Chryses' father. Achilles calls an assembly so that Agamemnon can return Chryses back to her father, but in a retaliation. Agamemnon takes braces from Achilles, which makes Achilles even more angry than before. Eventually, Thetis convinces Zeus that it would be better if the Trojans beat the Greeks and win this war, so they will regret what they did with respect towards Achilles by disrespecting his honor. Further, when they refuse to give back Chryses in response for having taken Briseis from him early on in this story. The Greeks suffered losses in the war. The Trojans broke through their defenses and set fire to their ships, which were their only means of returning home. Patroclus became distraught because he couldn't convince Achilles to return to battle. He then decided to impersonate him by wearing his armor so that he could lead a charge against the Trojans and retreat when necessary. However, once Patroclus started fighting, he failed to return back despite promising Achilles that he would do so after killing one of the Troy's best leaders. Hector killed him before that happened. Achilles is no longer interested in living, so he returns to battle and kills Hector. Shortly after, Paris kills Achilles. The Greeks built him a tomb but failed to include Patroclus' name at the urging of his son. Patroclus' shade wanders around until Thetis relents and writes his name on the tomb, enabling them to reunite joyfully in the afterlife. The sea nymphs prepare the body of Achilles for his funeral. Odysseus asks Thetis if he can combine Patroclus' ashes with those of her son. She agrees and Odysseus honors Achilles' last wish. The Greek kings meet to decide where they will build a tomb for Patroclus and Achilles, but are interrupted by the arrival of Pyrrhus, who is 12 years old and very beautiful. Agamemnon questions whether Pyrrhus is ready to fight in the battle, but Pyrrhus says that it was fated that he be there because without him they cannot win the war. Menelaus responds diplomatically by saying that everyone is happy to have him there. Then they go back to discussing how they will build the monument for Patroclus and Achilles, since both men died fighting together in the battle. Paris, the son of Achilles and King Priam's sister, is fighting for Troy. He demands the loyalty of his cousins Myrmidons to be part of his inheritance from his father. He sees braces and calls her a reason why Achilles refused to fight in a battle. Phares has her brought into his tent where he asked if she was used a bed slave by Achilles. She denies, but subtly alludes to Patroclus and Achilles' relationship by saying that they were close like brothers. Paris accuses her of lying, then grabs her arm and tries to pull off her bracelet, which she won't let him to do because it was given to her by Patroclus before he died. Paris smacks braces across the face, then tells another man named Odysseus that she tried to stab him, so they threw braces into the sea, where she dies underwater after being speared in the back. Troy falls and Paris demands another sacrifice for Achilles. He wants a white heifer, but Calchas gives him a young girl instead. He slashes her throat and declares her to be an acceptable sacrifice for his father's death. Agamemnon is horrified when she sees the boy being murdered against the walls of Troy. The night before the Greeks leave Troy, Patroclus visits Odysseus in a dream. He asks him to ensure that his name is written on the monument with Achilles. The next day, Odysseus meets with Paris and urges him to honor his father's wishes by including Patroclus' name on Achilles' monument, but Paris refuses. Many people visit Achilles' grave, including Thetis. She is filled with hatred when she sees him. He then tells her that he should be remembered not only for the men he killed but also for his moments of grace. And Artistry's voice, Patroclus asked when she isn't with Paris anymore. She admits that he was killed by Agamemnon's son because he raped his bride. Thetis asks Patroclus to tell her story about Achilles. He hates Thetis, but he wants to bring back his friend so much that he agrees. When he's done telling everything he can remember, Thetis says she wishes she could have made Achilles a god. Patroclus responds by saying, "But you did make him." After a long pause, Thetis tells him that she has engraved his name on the monument and that he should go now because he waits for you. In the end, they see each other in a flood of light and are united as a friends again.